And the fat monkey plops down on the chair. How are you doing? I've had this lens now for roughly the past 10 days. I am going to buy it. I was actually quite surprised about this lens. Not like extremely surprised like I was with the 16mm 1.4 X-mount lens, but this is the new 30mm f3.5, essentially an f2.8 equivalent lens. And I posted a lot of boring, nothing compositionally fascinating shots on both Instagram and Facebook. It's not really much bigger. It's kind of like a slightly larger, more swollen version of the 45 millimeter GFX lens, which is my absolute favorite prime. I have all the GFX lenses. I'm going to buy this one. It's also the exact same price as the 45 millimeter. This is, of course, the 24 millimeter field of view equivalent, 1 foot minimum focusing distance, 13 elements. It's $1,600. Well, it's basically $1,700. Trying to think about the most simplex way to sum this up, and of course, for architecture and landscape, the 23 millimeter lens, which is significantly more expensive. I'm going to have that lens. It's absolutely awesome. And it is very sharp, but we're looking at essentially $1,000 more. It's $2,600. And summing up this lens, and I'll talk about it here, and nobody wants me to read specifications off. A lot of people will talk about specifications, and the vignetting is nearly non-existent, either at 3.5, and I wouldn't think of shooting this step down any further than f11, but that's just me. I know the GFX lens is able to step down to f22 without any circle confusion issues. I think I've not used this lens at anything greater than f11 on some of the shots, and I've been shooting it quite a bit over the past 10 days. But the simplest way to actually explain this lens is that it's a poor man's version of the 23 millimeter. That's about the most accurate way to state it. And I actually made some conclusions and kind of shocked myself on a few things as an owner of all the GFX lenses about where I would actually put this and what it's actually best for. To be perfectly honest with you, I think most of you, as well as myself, thought that the 30 millimeter, this lens, would be kind of that oddball lens out 24 millimeter field of view equivalent in the GFX line. Something that doesn't really find its place. In other words, it's nice, but you would never grab for it. But my, perspective on that, and I'm sure it's yours, and a lot of people actually told me that in email and live stream, that thought, well, it's probably not going to, just something to fill the focal length line on the GFX series of lenses, and that's actually not the case. Just bigger, like I said, than the 45 millimeter. Same price also, too, as the 45 millimeter. And a lot of people I know want to compare it to the near end of the 32 to 64. After the 45 to 100 came out, I was never super hot on the 32 to 64. 32 to 64 is incredibly useful, but my favorite zoom is the 45 to 100, and then the 100 to 200, which has amazing OIS and is extremely useful and extremely lightweight. So both of those zoom lenses are actually more favorite and dear to me than even the 32 to 64 is. Not that the 32 to 64 isn't absolutely awesome, but compared to the 32 to 64 at the near end, it's a lot sharper and it is better in every way, and of course it should be that way as a prime. With the lens hood off, you can actually see this is actually a lightweight, for medium format it is. It's actually a lightweight, compact lens. Kind of interesting conclusion that I came to undeniably in packing this around more than a few times and shooting the hell out of this lens is that for travel, I would actually consider this to be the most single perfect prime lens for travel with any GFX camera. I take this 30 millimeter and like the 45 to 100, or this 30 millimeter and the 100 to 200 for travel. For usefulness, it's infinitely more useful than the 63 millimeter, which is, as I've told people, it's like, why don't you like the 63? I have the 63. It's like, well, yeah, it's perfectly fine, but it's kind of like in a room full of supermodels. It's 63 millimeters, kind of like, you know, the least attractive woman in a room full of supermodels. So even though 63 is great, but this is a lot more useful than the 63 and infinitely more useful than the 50 millimeter. Most of us, including me, got the 50 millimeter. I pay full price for these lenses just like you do. Bought the 50 millimeter when it was half off at $500, and $500 is just a no-duh purchase. But still, regardless of cost, this is an infinitely more useful lens than the 63 to 50. The 45 is still, bar none, flat out the best GFX prime lens. Extremely sharp. I was actually quite astonished at how sharp this lens was, considering it's a wide-angle lens. Like I said, it's 24 millimeter field of view equivalent. It's also to an f2.8 equivalent as far as that depth of field equivalent. A really great tonality, not incredible tonality, but great tonality. Very great for even for medium format for a wide-angle lens. Absolutely, of all the current 11 lenses in the GFX series, and I know the 80 millimeter is coming out, and this of course is no contender for the 80 millimeter. Obviously it's a totally different focal. This is the perfect travel lens for a GFX user, whether it be a GFX 50S or the 50R, which is my favorite digital camera of all time, and also too, certainly undeniably so, the best travel medium format camera. This is not that big, nor is it that heavy. There's no problem traveling with this camera. This is the perfect travel lens for a GFX user. So this is the single best travel GFX lens, in my earnest conclusion as an owner of all the GFX cameras and all the lenses. Well, I don't own the 50S anymore. That's just because I don't need 3 GFX cameras. Yeah, so boiling down the conclusion, like I said, I was surprised on how sharp this lens was. I was surprised on how good the tonality was. It's actually a lot sharper than I thought it would be. Said it's a poor man's 23 millimeter lens, which is essentially $1,000 more. Not exactly, but poor man's version of the 23. The perfect travel lens, incredibly sharp, great tonality, especially for a wide-angle lens. And I'm actually going to buy this lens. I'm borrowing this lens right now. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I easily give this a 9. And for usefulness, I easily rate this as a 10. Is it at or near the 45? No, I mean, this is a much more of a wide-angle lens. I'm surprised at how sharp it is. I'm surprised at the tonality on this lens. Like I said, it's a 13-element lens. That's not too much or not too little for medium format or in general. But this is a very compact lens, perfect for travel. And I was actually, I really did think that this would be like the three-legged lame duck of the focals for the GFX series. Everybody, by the way, is excited about the 80 coming out. I mean, it's a short, stubby portrait lens. I know why everybody's excited. But this is actually an incredible lens. You know, is it the 45 millimeter? No, it ain't. But the 45 millimeter is also not. Especially for, like, if you're walking down, say, like some tight streets in Europe, or anywhere for that matter, where you want to get a nice, and of course on any GFX camera, you know, you can crop the hell out of the image. You know it and I know it. For a nice wide field of view, this lens is it. And perfect for packing around all damn day. This is, for medium format, this is really lightweight, and this is compact. I don't care what you think, but this is a small, lightweight, compact, medium format lens. So I was actually startled in a good way on this. Said it doesn't top the 45, but this is not the 45 field of view. 45 is kind of the all-singing, all-dancing prime GFX lens, and it's the exact same price. But if I were to travel, like I said, I would actually bring this in the 45 to 100 or this in the 100 to 200. And this really, because, you know, if I were to go a month on Norway, and it would be backpacking, which is exactly what I like to do, but I can't afford to do it. You know, without this lens being out there, it's like, well, I got to bring the 23 millimeter and the 45 to 100. Yeah. But no, I would rather bring this than the 45 to 100. Absolutely. So, really, that is kind of the best summation of this lens. Is a poor man's 23 millimeter. But, well, thank you so much for watching. I wanted to be fair, logical, and honest to this lens as what it is relative to the spectrum of the other 10 GFX lenses that are out there. So this is a GFX or GF lens, number 11. And number 12 is the 80mm coming down the pike, I don't know, October, November this year. And I know everybody's waiting for that. Everybody keeps asking me about it, as if I know, because I haven't had my filthy little hands on it yet, obviously so. But I am going to buy this lens. I was actually surprised. I really was. It's unfortunate that I got to return this lens, but I'm only borrowing it. It's not mine. I got to return you, baby. I can't keep you. Thanks so much for watching, and wait for it. Fujifilm. Bye.